According to the cloud. There we go. And good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the joint meeting of the Creve Coeur and Maryland Heights Township Democratic Clubs. I'm Harvey Ferdman, president of the Maryland Heights Club, and we have Sydney Jackson here, who is president of the Creve Coeur Club. And welcome, everybody. Um, we will start with Pledge of Allegiance. If you will join me, I will display that. Hopefully they didn't move that around too much. There we go. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Um, so we have a number of elected officials here with us this evening. If you would introduce yourselves, and of course we have one person of very distinct honor, LaDonna Applebaum, who was given a really wonderful award at the St. Louis County Central Committee Gala this weekend. And thank you for your service, LaDonna. If you'd like to just introduce yourself, maybe say a few words.
Hello, everyone. State Representative on Applebaum, District 71, Freeport area, and Constable County. Yes, I received the thus far award Saturday night, and I can't tell you what an honor that was, and just how much fun that gala was to begin with. Anyway, but it's wonderful to see so many people on here tonight, and Democrats are awesome, and I look forward to hearing everything policy-wise, and let's get going.
Thank you. Your mic is still a little hard to hear. Okay, other elected officials. I see Connie Steinmetz. You're muted.
Yeah, there we go. Hi, yes, I'm Representative Connie Steinmetz from the 87th, which is Maryland Heights. And I'm glad session is over. That's really all I have to say. And I'm going to miss LaDonna. She was a fresh breath of air on the floor and off the floor. And so happy that she won the award on Saturday. So, LaDonna, and but looking forward to working with Nicole. So I think she'll be a great addition. Um, so that's all I have to say. It was a rough session, but we made it through, and we'll just keep fighting.
Thank you, and thank you for your service. And Nicole Greer, as everyone just heard, LaDonna is term limited, and Nicole is now unchallenged going into the general to uh, take that seat, which is very welcome. Very welcome. So
Hi, everyone.
Nicole.
Councilwoman Nicole Greer, currently representing the city of Creve Coeur and looking forward to stepping into the role of representative where I will still represent the city of Creve Coeur, which is awesome, and then pick up a little bit of unincorporated St. Louis County. So real quick, right now I'm focused on helping bring some of my colleagues to the State House. So I want to have a say in who I'm going to be working with. So I will spend my summer helping those folks so we can have a good team going into next year. Thank you.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. And Jake, I'm just going by the way folks are showing up on my grid here. Yeah, Jake Zimmerman.
Hi, I'm Jake, and you'll have to listen to way too much from me later, so I think I should shut up now and let everybody else introduce themselves.
Current position?
I'm the St. Louis County Assessor.
Which is an elected position.
It is indeed. Right. I'm proud to serve.
Other elected folks or elected folks representatives. If I missed anybody, please speak up.
Hey,
okay, hearing none. Oh, Gretchen, there you are. Thank you. I did miss you.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, Gretchen Bangert. I'm on the St. Louis County Council. LaDonna, congratulations. We had an event planned in January with about 40 of our closest friends, so I could not be there, but I'm so proud of you and so excited for your award. That's fantastic. I had a great time up in Jeff City last week seeing Connie and LaDonna and lots of other folks that are now termed out. So it was bittersweet, and I know you guys are kind of feeling it. Well, not Connie, but I know LaDonna's feeling it. And congrats to Nicole with no opposition. So I plan on doing the same thing she's doing, knocking a lot of doors and hopefully losing a few pounds this summer. But anyway, great to see everybody, and I'm looking forward to the presentation.
Okay, excellent. I have a note here that Drew is also elected.
Yes, hello, Drew Newman, Creve Coeur Council member for Ward 3. I'm currently sitting in the parking lot waiting for my daughter to finish her dance practice. And I'm very excited to hear from Jake, who I know very well, and Joan, who I don't know quite as well. But I'm very much looking forward to hearing from both of them tonight.
Excellent. Thank you for your service.
Harvey, she may be hiding in the background, so sorry if I'm outing you, but how about a shout out to former Representative Nancy Copenhaver, who was fighting the good fight in Jefferson City when all of us were just pups. And I vividly remember the work she was doing back when I was a young staffer for Governor Holden. And I don't think we should let the moment go by without acknowledging the work that she did.
Thank you very much, and thank you for letting me to join in. It gives me my blue fix.
And thank you for your service. Other voices, other elected officials, other representatives, or previous office holders? Okay, we'll move now to candidates. I know there's a few of them on here. If let's start again. I'm just going by the grid. Joan, I believe you're the first one that shows up. Just introduce yourself and you'll have plenty of time later. You're muted.
Okay, yeah. Hi, Harvey. I'm glad you're feeling better and you're looking great. So thank you for this tonight. And yeah, I'm running for Congress in Missouri District 2, and I'll be talking to you later tonight.
Thank you. Other candidates, I see Fred Wellman.
Yeah, good to see everybody. Fred Wellman, also run for Missouri District 2 against Ann Wagner. Real proud of where we come. If you guys didn't see today, we announced our endorsement from Common Defense, veterans group I'm very proud to have supported during my 10 years as a veterans advocate in Washington, D.C., and proud to have their endorsement. They join about 8 of our elected officials, including Senator Andy Kim, Pat Ryan, Ted Lieu have endorsed us. We've picked up some great labor support. If you guys haven't heard, sheet metal workers, IVW. Very proud to have the Teamsters Joint Council 13 endorse us last week as well. We've got a lot of LaDonna Applebaum, thanks for your endorsement. Nicole Greer, other endorsers here. We appreciate all you guys and your support for our campaign. We've got real momentum going now. I'm real proud. I believe we've surpassed both Trish and Ray's total raises in their campaigns to date. We keep that momentum going as we start our national fundraisers next week. All in all, I'm very happy where we are. We're hitting our marks to beat Ann this cycle. You know, that redistricting is not going to change a thing, folks. The math remains the same. We've built a candidate and a campaign from the very beginning to be able to reach across the district, run every part of the district, reach the folks who need to hear from us. So nothing really changes for us math-wise, as the campaign we've built from day one is going to beat Ann. And I'm just real proud to be a part of you guys. You guys have been welcoming me since the very beginning of this process, the 5 years I've been involved. So thank you for all your support. I look forward to fighting for you.
Thank you. And thank you in your interest to serve us. Other candidates? Okay, hearing none. Cindy, did you want to say a few words?
No, I don't think so. I don't really have anything.
Okay, well, we'll keep things rolling. Not to keep the suspense here for very long, we'll have Jake Zimmerman on first. Quick introduction for Jake. It's a long, long, long history of service to us and our state. He's been a state representative. He's worked in this he's been an assistant attorney general who focused on working on behalf of Missourians, and he was focused on helping folks who have been victimized by illegal and unfair business practices. Has lots of accomplishments there. There's so much to read here, Jake. I'm just trying to jump over the highlights.
Harvey, I think you're calling me old.
No, not at all. Just accomplished. Accomplished. He has served as a state representative, currently as our assessor, which we really did need some really good, clean uh, reworking of that office. It's much more efficient now as someone who has had to go and ask them to take a closer look at my assessments at one point. The process now is much better. Anyway, so thank you, Jake. I'm not going to bore everyone. I think a lot of folks already know a lot of your accomplishments. So without further ado, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Harvey. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the warm welcome, even if it reminds me that I'm not quite that kid that I was back when I went to work for Governor Holden more than a few years longer ago than I care to remember. So, look, thanks so much to everyone for being here tonight, and I know I'm not your only speaker, so I'll try not to suck up too much of your time. I'm sure everybody knows that I am running to be your next St. Louis County executive. Uh, and I think everybody also knows that St. Louis County government and politics more broadly has not exactly clothed itself in glory these last few years. And really, even longer ago than that. Forget about the current dysfunction and the tales that Councilwoman Bangert could tell you of folks not working together. And think back to the not so long ago past when we had a literal criminal sitting in that county executive seat. And I'm not talking about ticky-tack stuff involving ballot postcards. I'm talking about actually stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from the public in the form of no-bid contracts given to people who were funneling that money right back into the county executive's campaign. I'm talking, of course, about Steve Stenger. And the fact is that the people's trust in St. Louis County government has been betrayed again and again over the decade and a half that I have served here in local government. And I dredge this up not to make us all feel bad and not to remind everyone of just how gross things have gotten in county politics at their worst, but rather to make what I think is a fundamental point, which is that maybe we have forgotten a little bit what it is to have high standards of our local public service and what to demand of the people who serve us. I look at some of the goofiness, some of the craziness that we've seen in county government, and I wonder if Councilwoman Greer or Councilman Newman would ever tolerate that nonsense on the Creve Coeur City Council, right? And the answer is that they wouldn't, because the citizens wouldn't stand for it. They'd be packing the meetings. But day in and day out, you have but to pick up the Post-Dispatch or the other news source of your choice, and you will see some story about St. Louis County politics that just has you shaking your head. And I don't care whether it's the genuine bad behavior of the Stenger administration or the fist fights in the corridors that we've seen more recently or any of the other junior high school silliness, right? I could go on, and so could every single person on this Zoom if you've been paying attention. And my purpose here is not to make Councilwoman Bangert feel any worse about the place that she signed up to do public service than perhaps she already does, right? But instead, to make this fundamental point, which is, damn it, we got to do better. And we have a moment. Folks, if you take nothing else away from my comments this evening, I invite you to just think about this. Not since the 1990s has there been an open seat for your St. Louis County executive with no incumbent running for the office, right? Because Dr. Page decided to step down and is not seeking reelection. Not since the Republicans were in charge, not since Gene McNary held this office, for those who even remember him, have we had this kind of a moment of transition. So when I say to you that this is a moment of generational change, I ain't kidding around, right? A moment like this literally has not come in 30 years, and we do not know when the next one will be. So this race is incredibly important, And that's why I'm so grateful that all of you have chosen to be here this evening and to invest some time in this, right? Because it matters, because we get one chance to fix this. And that's not just because there's a big election, right? The other reason we get one chance and only one chance to fix this is because of the budget situation that faces St. Louis County. We have a structural budget deficit, depending on whose numbers you believe, hovering somewhere in the neighborhood of $80+ million. $80+ million more going out the door on a yearly basis than what is coming in the door. And that is not just abstract numbers. That is not just a problem for wonks, and it's not just a thing for politicians to wring their hands about. Don't solve that problem. And what that means is that means a lack of the basic services that people in this community need. Whether you're talking about healthcare and the clinics that serve us, whether you're talking about our parks, whether you're talking about our potholes, or anything in between, folks, this is real and it's serious and it's big. The county has been papering over this problem for years. A series of politicians of both parties have stuck their heads in the sand and tried to pretend it didn't exist and tried to deal with it using one-time funds. When you spend one-time funds to fix ongoing problems rather than actually deal with the ongoing problems, what you're doing is you're burning the furniture to keep warm. And the county is just about out of options to do that. So I say again, we have one chance to fix it. Because if this doesn't get taken care of and we don't get some real public service happening here sooner rather than later, bad things are going to happen. So, okay, hopefully you're persuaded that it matters and that we need to get down to business and we need to get down to business quickly. So that's all well and good, but why this guy, right? You got Democratic primary, you got 3 candidates to choose from. The other 2 of them are state senators, and they're both good state senators. So why on earth should you care that the county dog catcher is here to talk to you today? Those of you who know my work, and for that matter, those of you who don't know my work, hopefully you at least know what the job is that I do. It's the most glamorous and sexy job in all of regional government. We have supermodels lining out the door day in and day out just to come to the assessor's office. It's a real problem. And of course, that's not true, right? Because if you take a moment to give thought to the county assessor's office, you probably only do it to shake your fist a little bit. Ours is not the most beloved and the most glamorous piece of regional public service. And that's precisely why you ought to have a little bit of faith in me as someone who might have a shot at cleaning up this mess. Because think about it. Think about that first campaign I ran for assessor all those years ago. There's a bunch of people on this Zoom who supported me in that campaign and have ever since, right? And you remember what I talked about. I talked about fairness, accountability, independence, responsiveness, the nuts and bolts things that you should demand out of your public servants. And look, this is a Democratic club meeting, and those of you who knew me in the legislature, y'all know I'm a proud progressive Democrat, right? There's no doubt about where I stand. Ask me what I think about a woman's right to make her own healthcare decisions. Ask me what I think about marriage equality. Ask me what I think about equal access to healthcare or any of the other hot button things that Nicole gets to face when she goes to Jefferson City next year. You know where I stand. That's why you should take me seriously when I say things like, there's not a Democratic or a Republican way to assess a house. But there's a right way and a wrong way. There's a fair way and there's an unfair way. There's a way where the people believe that you're working for them, and there's a way where the people believe that you're working for the highest bidder. Right? So the only promise I made to the people of this county when they made me the first elected assessor in about 50 years was that that's the kind of public service they would get. That I would work for everybody. The people who loved me, the people who hated me, the folks who supported me to the hilt, and the folks who only care about me when they show up to yell at me at a town hall meeting in South County. I work for all of them. 70+% of the people of St. Louis County voted to make the county assessor an elective and accountable position. And I will guarantee you that 70% of the people of St. Louis County have never voted for this guy and never will. No matter how many votes I get in this election, it won't be 70%. Think about the implications of that. There's a meaningful chunk of citizens of this community And they're not the kind of citizens who show up for a Democratic Township Club Zoom meeting, who voted for accountability in that office, even though they knew they'd probably get a guy that they didn't like and would vote against. Think about what that means. And then think about whether you ought to expect, no, demand that level of public service out of those who serve you at every level of government, and especially out of your county executive. If you want Connie Steinmetz and Nicole Greer and everybody else we send to Jefferson City to fight for us and to fight for this region, if you want them to be able to say with a straight face that St. Louis County, the biggest economic engine in the state, deserves its fair share of resources and deserves not to be steamrolled by a bunch of rural Republicans, then the county's first job is to run itself honestly and competently in a way that makes people proud, not in a way that makes people embarrassed. And right now, too often, St. Louis County government is a source of eye rolling. It's a source of chuckling. It's a source of shaking our heads and wondering who's worse, the St. Louis City Board of Aldermen or the St. Louis County government, right? And that has real consequences for the interests that all of us care about and that all of us fight for in this town and in Jefferson City and all the way up the ticket. So the real reason I would suggest that you should think seriously about making me your next county executive is not just that I share your values, because you got multiple people in this race who share your values. And it's not just that there's a history of talking the talk and walking the walk, because you can find that elsewhere too. But you've only got one person in this race with a dedicated track record of doing this kind of hard work for all of the citizens of St. Louis County. And the question I'd invite you to ask yourself is go back and think about the most embarrassing stories you read about county government. I don't care whether it was in the Stanger administration or the Dooley administration or last week. I want you to think about the thing that made your blood boil the most. I want you to think about the thing that made you shake your head and say, that's ridiculous the most. And then just ask yourself one question. Did you see my name in that story? Did you ever see me in the decade and a half that I have served you as your county assessor? Did you ever see me do anything other than with fairness and integrity and the highest principles of public service? Because, folks, you can find lots of people who disagree with the work we do. You can find lots of wealthy tax representatives who think I should have given them a bigger break, or who think that I should have rolled over to the casino or rolled over to the fake farmers or anybody else. And you can find plenty of ordinary citizens who wish I'd valued their house differently. But the thing you can't find, and the thing you won't find, is me ever, ever having given you public service that was other than honest and decent and something that you can be proud of. So if that's something you'd like a little bit more of in St. Louis County government, and if that's something that you would like over the chief executive of this region, if that's something you would like out of the person who holds, let's be real for a moment here, the biggest job held by a Democrat anywhere in the state of Missouri, think about that. If you want the biggest job held by a Democrat anywhere in this state to be not just a Democrat you agree with, but a Democrat you can be proud of, a Democrat you can have some confidence in, shares the core values that brought us all here tonight, then, folks, my name is Jake Zimmerman, and I'd be honored to have your support. And by that, I mean I'd be honored to have your active support. I'd be honored to have you go on our website at jakezimmerman.org and sign up to put up a yard sign, to help us make a few phone calls, to help us communicate with voters on Election Day. There are 2.5 months until this election, this once-in-a-generation election. And if you like what you hear, I'd be thrilled to have you on the team. Thanks so much. And Harvey and Sydney, maybe you can tell me if we have time to do some questions here. I don't want to step on Joan's time, so you tell me how you want to go from here.
Yes, we can take questions. Absolutely. Let's see. Okay.
While
Do we have
wait
any
on
questions?
I would invite anyone who's interested to just take a look in the chat where Hannah from my campaign has put some information about how you can sign up and be a part of it.
Excellent. Sydney, if you see anything, let me know, or just read it out. Folks, you're usually not this quiet.
Oh, I see a question
Sure.
from Ed. Ed wants to know how I differentiate myself from the others. Ed, I am the only red-haired Jewish guy in this candidate field, and that's the one thing that no one can take away from me. But somehow I'm guessing that's not what you're asking about. Look, there are some points of ideological difference that we could talk about if you're interested. One of my opponents, voted for a criminal justice bill that would allow 13-year-olds to potentially be tried as adults in our court system. And I just think that's precisely the wrong approach for St. Louis County. And we could talk about those policy disagreements and other places where we might differ. But beyond that, I think the fundamental substantive thing that really differentiates me from the others is that I have a history of doing the difficult executive management work, which is what the county needs right now. And let's put that in the appropriate perspective, okay? The county is one of the five biggest employers in the region, as what, 5,000 employees, give or take, billion-dollar budget, give or take. This is a giant entity that serves all of us. And I don't think there's anybody on this Zoom who's run anything of that size, right? I run an office of 150 public servants with a $20 million budget. It's a small candle compared to that, but it's not nothing. And the work that it takes to make this office function is overwhelmingly nonpartisan. It is overwhelmingly the kinds of nuts and bolts governance stuff that you just don't get exposed to when you're in a purely legislative role. And so, Ed, if you go back in time 15 years to when you knew me as a state legislator, and then when I became a green executive for the first time, I could go over with you in painful and excruciating detail all the mistakes that I made in my first year or two in this office. And I say that only to say that your sea legs don't come overnight. And I would suggest that at this moment of crisis, one might think twice before deciding whether to hand over the keys to someone who doesn't have that kind of executive experience.
Yeah, I
I'm
think there were a couple more questions in the
I'm
chat.
I'm looking at the chat, and I see Sandra says, "How will you handle the board?" And I assume that's a reference to the county council. And I appreciate that question because I think the dominant sort of original sin of everything that's challenging in county politics right now is the terrible, awful, no good, very bad relationship between the county executive and the county council. And it takes two to tango, and I am not interested in casting blame, and I'm not interested in saying who's wrong or who's right. What I'm interested in doing is taking down the temperature and getting back to a place where we treat one another with respect. And that means a little bit of humility, and it means a little bit of servant leadership. And it means saying to Councilwoman Bangert and to the other six public servants on that council, the Republicans as well as the Democrats, that all of us have a job to do and we all got to work together. And I don't need you to agree with me. We're going to disagree with each other. That's what politics is about. What I need in order for the relationship to work is for you to believe that I respect you and for me to earn your respect back. And the way you do that is by being honest and forthright with people. And if you're not with someone, you say, I'm not with you. And if you are, you say, I am, and you don't go back on your word later. And you understand that people of good hearts and reasonable minds will disagree, but that's okay because all of us are trying to solve the same problems and all of us are trying to serve the people. Harvey, do you want me to keep going here?
Um, yeah, just for another couple of minutes.
Sure
If
thing.
you're comfortable answering that next question, what do you think about the ethics investigation of Executive Page?
Yep. And then there's a subsidiary there, which is what is your thinking about getting the budget back to balance? So two softballs, and I appreciate that. So as to the first part, I'll let the various investigations play out, and I don't think it's my place to speak about either a prospective court trial in Southwest Missouri or the work of the council's ethics committee. You might better direct those questions, at least on the latter half, to Councilwoman Bangard. But what I want to say is that the absolute commitment you have is that I will hold myself to the highest of ethical standards, and that I will expect of me the same thing I expect of everybody else who serves you in public, which is to do it honestly and for the right reasons. As for my thinking about getting the budget back to balance, I want to go back to the core principle that I articulated earlier, which is that one-time funds should not be used to solve ongoing budget problems. When you do that, you're hiding in a corner and you're pretending the problem doesn't exist. That's not how you budget. The office that I currently run the budget was in the red. It was trending in the wrong direction when I came into office. These days it's in the black. And the way you can test that is because the assessor's office runs on a standalone bank account. It's called the assessment fund, and it's separate from the rest of county government, which means that if I spend down that bank account to zero, there is no magic chariot from the heavens to rescue me. And so I, from day one, have had to run this office the same way that you would run your household finances or a small business, which is that the money coming in has to be the same or greater than the money going out. And doing that takes hard choices. Sometimes it means you don't fill positions that you wish you could fill. There's lots of places in this office where I would prefer to provide a more personalized form of public service than what we can do, but we only have the resources that the people have given us to spend. And uh, the broader county is the same situation, and I can talk to you at nauseating length about, you know, wasteful money spent on computer systems that don't work, as was seen in the Department of Revenue recently, where millions of dollars was spent on a new system that's worse than the one they already had. And the result of that, as many of you will remember, was senior citizens waiting in 2-hour lines in the cold to pay their taxes, and then the checks not getting deposited for months. Like, think about that for a moment, right? You're in the middle of a budget crisis, you don't have enough money, and you waste money on a poorly designed system that doesn't let you collect it from the people who want to pay it to you. Right. There's a million other examples like that, and we don't have time to go into all of them. But suffice it to say that structurally, that stuff needs to get fixed. That's the right solution. The wrong solution is take all the money from the Rams settlement and pretend you don't have a problem and blow the Rams money on that. If you do
So the
that,
next,
solve your problem for 18 months, and then you're right back in the same soup you were in before.
thank you. The next question actually goes back to budget in some ways. There's a question about will the county employees get to maintain the 3% raise, and it has something to do with COLA as well.
Yep. So, your mom probably was around in the Stanger years and bitterly remembers the same thing that every single person in my shop remembers, which is the many years of pay freezes. I believe it was like 7 out of those 10 years that the Stanger administration imposed a pay freeze and didn't give any raises at all, gave 0% raises to county employees. And maybe that was attractive to them because they thought it would put off the budget problem, which would be more persuasive if they hadn't been turning around and handing out county contracts at inflated prices to their campaign donors. But that's another story. The problem with across the board pay freezes, as tempting as they are when there is a bad budget situation, is not just that you screw the employees. The real problem is you don't keep the good employees. You do that for too long. I saw exactly what happens. Your best and your brightest, your most talented people, they leave. Some of my best appraisers left St. Louis County and went to go work in St. Charles County. I don't think they really wanted to go work in St. Charles County. I think they liked their jobs. But if they saw that they didn't have a professional future, then they weren't going to stay. And so that, your mom is right to be worried because the situation is grim, but you can't balance the budget on the backs of the people who make your government function. Because if you do that, you lose those people.
Thank you. Thank you, Jake. Wish you the best in the campaign and the election, and looking forward to years of continued service to the community. I know that there is uh, another person running as well, and I'm sure that the best of you will win.
Two other
So,
people running, just for the sake
two
of full
other.
disclosure.
My mistake. Thanks for the
Come
correction.
one, come all. All right. Thanks everybody so much. I just take a look again at Hannah's little text box in the chat, which will show you how you can sign up to help. One more time with feeling. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Okay. For our next guest, let me get back to the right display here on my system. Gallery. Okay. For our next guest, Joan VonDras, who's running for Congressional District 2 to represent us in the U.S. Congress. Full disclosure, I am her campaign manager, so I have a bit of a bias going into this, so I will be very careful to try to keep that to myself. I do see not just other candidates, but I see paid staff and senior volunteer staff from Fred's campaign here also. If you are going to ask questions, please identify yourself as such. Just as a courtesy to the folks who are not aware of who's who. And I will do a introduction for Joan. Joan's taught in our community for 30 years. Her belief is that public education is where the pulse of our democracy beats the strongest. It connects this next generation to the virtues of our founding documents, the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. In these ideas and ideals, we honor the sacrifice of those who gave their lives and livelihood so that we could live in a free and just society. As citizens, we bear the responsibility to fully fulfill the promise of our founders and work towards a more perfect union. Joan cares about the kind of country her granddaughters will inherit. She has experience in leadership with Missouri Indivisible. She's a member of the St. Louis Women's Fund, she's a longtime union member of the National Education Association and the Retired Teachers Association, Educational Association. An interesting, not very well known accomplishment is she formed and is a member of the BMW Motorcycle Owners of America. And she's also founder of Town Talks Live. She'll be talking about that. Saving Democracy, one conversation at a time. She's been doing that for over a year, meeting people throughout our district and our community. And she's an author of Empowerment Through Talk, Creating Democratic Communities. She has campaign experience working starting with Hillary Clinton's campaign and all the way through all of the campaign folks that all the folks running for office that you would expect. I think I will stop here and turn the floor over to Joan.
Well, thank you, Harvey, for that wonderful introduction, and I really do appreciate it. And Tony, I see you had a cat visitor too as well. So I call her DC Kitty because the other two cats do not like the feral cat, and she needs to be elsewhere. So, anyway, thank you for having me back again. And last time I was here, I did talk about Town Talks, and I talked about how that transitioned into the campaign and had a presentation and all. But a lot of you were already there for that. So I thought I would do a recap of that, but also just update you on what has been going on since then and some of the town halls that I have had. And I know that I don't need to preach to the choir. Everybody in this group knows that we are at a tipping point and that this is a watershed moment. And for me, retired, riding around on my motorcycle, enjoying my grandkids and my daughter-in-laws and my sons, I couldn't sit idly by and not do something. I'm retired, and I just felt that it's my duty to step in and do what I can to fix this. So I started Town Talks back in 2025 to just really work on how we have conversations outside the political divide, because there was so much division and contempt. But I really didn't feel that it was as bad as it was has social media presented itself to be. And that is what I found out in these conversations that I had over that period of time. And you think about, how did we get here? And I go back to Reagan, who, he flipped things around, right? Trickle down economics. And, all the time he was in office, it was all about making people feel bad about paying for taxes and trying to shift the tax code, which he did in 1986. And he kind of flipped the script. And in those years, $50 trillion was transferred from the 90% to the 1% in this country. And what came from that is incredible dark money that has corrupted our politics and deteriorated our representative democracy. Tech billionaires are involved in it with their social media platforms that silo us and use their algorithms to create and incentivize rage and divide us and get us to other one another. One of the books I'm reading is called Super Bloom, and it's about how the technologies of connection are tearing at the very fabric of society. And that is what is happening. So for me, what is the recourse? It is getting back to conversation and reconnecting. And you can see it everywhere. I go into half-price books and you see albums and you see books and you see people there, loads of people, especially young people, because they want to have game nights and they want to have all sorts of things that bring them together, because many of our generation has grown up in this digital world and are craving that reconnection. And that is what having conversations can bring us back to. But I really want to make it clear, for me, this is not a kumbaya moment. For me, this is about strategy. We cannot win District 2 just with Democratic votes. We have to have independents and we have to have Republicans. And it is incumbent upon us to step into that space and help them understand how the policies in the Democratic Party actually benefit them. And to do that, we can't, everybody has their frame, the way they see things. And the frame comes from the experiences they've had in their lives, but a lot of it now is coming from the manipulation of social media, as well as media outlets that are being bought up by the billionaires and just constantly repeating misinformation and othering and words like that, especially Fox News, where news isn't news anymore, news is entertainment. So within that context, people have some pretty rigid frames. So attacking the frame just makes it worse. What we have to do is step into that frame and into that space and begin to understand why people feel the way that they do and find a way in and help widen that frame. And that is the power of conversation. And the challenge, I also believe, is getting civil discourse within that conversation. So I've taken that work that I was doing in town talks and I've put it into what it would be like if I ran, or if I won as your representative, because I am running as I would represent. And I have had, I think I've had 8 town halls. The first two were the Bridging of Divide workshops and just getting people having conversations. And then the next 3 were in South County, West County, and Franklin County. And I gathered people together in groups and they had conversations and got to know each other. I think some of you probably remember this, right? Maslow's hierarchy. I had each group look at those, the physiological needs and the safety needs, and have the conversation with each other. What is policy that you are experiencing now that is impacting those very base 2 layers? Because we can't get to the highest part of self-actualization or the other layers of that when the very basic things that we have, food, shelter, water, environment, safety, are threatened. And people shared stories because that is how we relate with these policies, the stories and how they're impacting our lives. And from that, the groups had to come to consensus about what they felt we needed to talk about at the town halls for policy. One of the things I see as a weakness with the way town halls are done is people gather, questions are scripted or submitted in advance, and they're asked and they're answered. People don't get to know each other and they leave. There's an opportunity here when we have people show up at these events. Turn to a neighbor, spend 2 minutes just getting to know somebody else in that crowd that you don't know. And then structuring it where we're not all sitting in rows just listening. We get enough of that, but actually engaging in conversations. So with that, what I found very interesting, all 3 counties, the number one thing that they wanted to talk about was healthcare. And lucky for me, we have someone here that could speak to that specifically. And Ed Weisbart, I was so fortunate, and Ed, I think you're on this call. You worked with me in those conversations and presented Medicare for All. And it was a really good opportunity to understand kind of the misperceptions of what people think Medicare for All is and what it really is. And what that allows us to do when we have town halls that are focused on a specific topic, which I think they should be, and have conversations around that topic, that we can go from that with talking points and understanding. So we enter in those conversations and we can make sense and help step back into the frame and help people who do not understand it gain a better understanding. Something else that I thought was really important with those first 2 is I had Andrea Gori, who is a public health policy expert. And she was talking about if you want to change the outcomes, you have to change the system. And that was a really good opportunity to understand if we want to change these health outcomes that everybody is being impacted by at all levels, from what healthcare costs, from what access they get, from being turned down for procedures that they need, for medical bankruptcies that are the number one cause of bankruptcy in this country. All of those things are caught up in our Medicare and our medical system. The third town hall that we had, we didn't have Andrea Gori, but Nick Vivio did a wonderful job just talking about the medical debt and stories of families who have just been crushed by it in the most devastating times in their lives, losing a child, losing a spouse, or a journey that they have had to go through. And all of these things that we're facing, the issues with Medicaid, the problems with workman's comp, the problems with outrageous prices for our healthcare, which are going up again, losing the ACA subsidies, the pharmaceuticals that are crazy expensive because we can't negotiate those prices down, right? We did it with insulin. All of those things can be helped by Medicare for All. So that was a really empowering set of 3 town halls. The next one is on AI and a digital bill of rights. And the way that came together really had a lot to do with Jen Trickey. I was giving people my to-do list or actions that I want to take when I get to DC, just more specific details on the main points, which you can find on my website. And Jen Trickey's, and I said, look at this, and what is something that you think should be added? And Jen said, we need a digital bill of rights. And as I started presenting that at other places, it really resonated because there are concerns about AI. And I don't have to tell you what all those are. There's a lot. And also the data centers going in. And is there another way that we could go about this? And also, what are our rights as we enter into this digital world? So that's a conversation to have. And I see these town halls as an opportunity, not just to present policy, because that should be the role of a representative. We present legislation that's in Washington. We present those ideas so people do not have misinformation. But it's also an opportunity to have another type of town hall. And that is where we start having those conversations, those beginning conversations about things that we face as a community. So this first one is going to be June 10th on AI and the Digital Bill of Rights. And I'm excited to have a guest who is going to talk about decentralized AI, data centers. And Jen's going to be talking about the different types of AI and where we are on that journey with AI. There's going to be a lot of other people that are coming that have expertise and are impacted by AI. I think it'll be a really good conversation, and I'm looking forward to it. But I would think, as an elected representative, that would be something I would continue to have. And I think the other really important thing about town halls like this, because people are really connecting and they're forming constituencies and relationships and bonds. And if I'm in DC, it's really nice to have those conversations continuing. So let's say Medicare for All. Those people that have attended those town halls where Ed did such a magnificent job presenting have an opportunity to continue the conversations and to be that go-between to keep the conversations going. So when I come back in, we can pick up the conversation, whatever that important topic is. So I see things as an opportunity, problems as an opportunity to redefine them. And this is my whole career. When I taught, the first year that I taught in Parkway, I went into my boss's office and I had like 13 teacher guides. And I said, I do not want to teach all the kids the same. I really felt there was a better way to do it. And he said, well, I've been waiting 25 years for somebody to come in and say that to me. What do you need? And from there, over the next 11 years in Parkway, I wrote over $250,000 in grants for all types of programs and staff support to change things from the staff up. And one thing I know is that you cannot do that if you don't have the ability to get people to listen to one another, find common ground, and move together. It's an important skill set. And it's a skill set that I'm going to bring as a representative. The other thing I want to say, I want to go back to, the problems we have with big money just completely compromising our representative democracy. And I'm really excited to be part of over 100 signatories of new people running for the Democratic Party with BAC to bring back balance and accountability to Congress. And there are 5 things that we've signed on to do that. The number one thing is we want to get rid of Citizens United. And I don't think that's an impossible task. Right now, Hawaii and I forget which one, there's one other state working on getting rid of that money in their own state. Of course, it's going to be challenged in court, but states are going ahead with it. But at the federal level, we need to push back on Citizens United. This money is why Anne doesn't answer to you. She doesn't need it to put out all her misinformation and tear this community apart. The other thing is no stock trading. Speaking of Anne, right? And she went in with $700,000 and now she's worth $32 million, and she's not the only one. So we've got to have no stock trading. There also needs to be a moratorium on lobbying. And some of you probably remember when we were working on the amendment to stop the revolving door at the state level with a lobbyist. Same thing at the federal level, a moratorium of 5 years with the lobbying. We also need to consider term limits. And I think 2 ways on this. I really feel that if we get this the other one, the Code of Judicial Ethics for the Supreme Court. We've got to get that. We can do those things. And perhaps if we get those things reset, we'll actually be able to vote people out that the representative democracy doesn't feel are being represented. And I think term limits are a tool, but we've got to be careful with the institutional knowledge that's a part of that. So I think that's a conversation. But I am excited to be a part of that group, because if that slate of candidates get in, it's an opportunity to revise the Democratic Party to be more responsive to the people. Because right now, let's be honest, the Democratic Party, I don't have to tell you, even though winning a lot of elections overall, Democratic Party's not polling as well as it could be. We need to rebuild the House. We need to innovate. We need to strengthen it. And we need to listen to the young people in the party and their concerns as well. You're muted, Harvey.
There we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, yeah,
Are you open to taking some questions?
I am. Yeah. Let's have a
Okay,
conversation.
we have one in the we have a couple now in the chat. First one is
Yeah, let's go to that, the redistricting one.
yeah, redistricting, and how do you plan to appeal those who are more concerned about rural agricultural issues than the average person in this powwow? I did
Yeah.
not ask him to ask that question, by the way, but thank you, Mark.
Yeah, that is a really good question. I have been out to almost every data center meeting. I couldn't go to the one this morning, but as an educator, there's all sorts of issues, that we need to address with the rural area. Number one is with education, because we keep taking money out of the rural areas to support, vouchers and things here. We've got 37% of the schools on 4-day weeks, and that is unsustainable. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, arguing with how, well, schools are bad and the kids are underperforming. And I asked him, so even before I left teaching, we were underfunding public schools. So this has been something that Missouri has been doing for a long time. And right now we're underfunding it by 300 million. And we're giving a 50 million to vouchers. They're going to do another 100 million next year. And they're also talking about even deeper cuts. And the conversation I had with that gentleman is, could you run a company like that? Right? You can't run government like that either. And you can't run schools like that. Schools have to be fully funded. And the other piece, I think, at a federal level. So how can you address that at a federal level? We need a moonshot for public education. It is the foundation of our democracy, and public dollars belong in public education. And we've had other federal programs that have been integrated throughout the whole nation. So we know that we can do that. One thing I think the federal government needs to do is equalize funding in education. Right now it's based on property tax, and we know we did a lot of redlining in this area that has led to dramatic inequality in education. And as long as it's based on that, that's a disadvantage for rural areas as well. The other thing about rural areas is I want to be on the agriculture committee, because agriculture is really important to this region. I've had people like, oh, what do you, the farms, that kind of thing, you're in District 2. Well, District 2 has a lot of farms, right? In Franklin County alone, we had around 2,600 farms, I think it was, in 2016, and then we're down dramatically in 2022. I think we're down to about 1,800. I can't remember the numbers exactly, but they're decreasing. And these are our small farms. These are our diverse farms, and we've got to protect those farms. And we're also, everything that I'm going to tell all of you, everything that the Trump administration has done, from the tariffs to this war in Iran, has impacted farmers dramatically, and it's going to continue to impact farmers long after this war, if it ever gets resolved, because we don't have the fertilizer and the things that farmers need right now. We have a record rate of suicides of farmers because their needs are not getting met. I think the Agriculture Committee has an opportunity to address that and to fix it. And also we have SNAP benefits that are under the agriculture bill. And you think about 43% of the nation's produce comes through St. Louis. We need to leverage that. This is really an important area. And we also have an opportunity to rebuild the rural areas. The infrastructure bill was going to allow for that. And the Trump administration has taken those funds out. And we need to get back to that, because data centers aren't the answer for union jobs. It's going to be a one-time build, but we need it to be bigger and better, rebuilding our schools. And if you have really good schools, right? Look at Linda Henke in Maplewood Richmond Heights. She improved those schools in Maplewood, Richmond Heights. Families moved in, more businesses moved in, and the area became more vibrant. And when you invest in those schools and in rural schools, you have an opportunity to make those areas more vibrant as well.
Excellent. We have another question. I'm going to summarize it. Basically, after a contentious primary, Joan, I'll just summarize it if you would, because it's a little too
Okay.
anyway, a little folks can read it if they want to read the details. After a contentious primary, would you personally and would you tell your supporters to support whoever wins the primary?
I think absolutely. I mean, it's our democracy is on the line. Full stop. And the only way that we are going to get Trump out of office and get the control back to Congress is to take back Congress and have a Democratic majority. And we've got to put every effort into every seat throughout this country to get it done.
Thank you. Any other questions? Let's see, I can scroll
Harvey.
down here.
Excuse me, Harvey.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, I'm name's Daniel Vanston. I'd just like to fully clarify. I worked on Ray's campaign, and now I'm a staffer for
Oh.
Nikki Budzinski. I'd like to put that out there before I ask my question. So I have a couple for Joan. The first is I've seen that you've claimed to be a lifelong Democrat. However, I've seen that you are signed up on the Forward Party as over like it says you're a member of the Forward Party on their website since last year.
I don't know
Have
what the
you?
Forward Party is. I absolutely have no idea what that is.
Okay, it's on their website. And then lastly, the other question is, how do you justify being in the race when party leaders, unions, and special interests have all backed other candidates?
Well, I am outside the establishment. And for many people, that's a refreshing thing. And I'm just going to, stay with my lifelong piece here that I've been in this town my entire life. And I've been a lifelong Democrat. And I think my approach resonates with a lot of people. And I have testimonials from students and parents and people that I have worked with in this community. And I haven't spent a lot of time going after any of those endorsements. I've spent my time being in the community, having conversations with people.
Okay. I don't even know how to deal. LaDonna? Oh, I'm sorry.
I just don't feel like we got a full answer on that. I feel
You
like
want to elaborate a little bit because I'm not even sure how to. And this is not because I'm involved with her campaign. I would, out of respect, handle this question the same way for any candidate. If you want to, phrase it a little differently.
so I appreciate. I know you're her campaign manager. Uh, I'm not anyone's campaign manager, but I feel like Laura had a lot of serious points to make because, out of respect of being Democrats, I feel like we have to be respectful to each other. And I think Laura's question might have been, yes, hey, will she, welcome us in? But also, if Fred wins, is she going to support him?
Oh, Madonna, absolutely. Absolutely.
And
This isn't about me. This is not about me, and it isn't about Fred. And I would hope that wherever we end up in this primary, that our focus is on what we need to do. And that is in this watershed moment, this tipping point. We've got to address it, and we have to break through.
so, can you explain to me why some of your team posted videos about Wellman supporters being jerks, basically?
Donna, I'm not even going to get into that. It's going both ways, and I don't think it's very productive. And, my campaign could push back and go back and forth with this. And it's unfortunate. That hasn't happened with any of the other candidates that were running in this. And I am not going to spend my time pointing fingers and having fingers pointed at me. I just don't see it as a productive way to use this time.
Okay, I get that. I just wanted to make sure that Laura's voice was heard. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I see one new one popped up in the chat. Oh, it was a thank you, LaDonna. Okay. Um, yeah, again, I look forward to all of us working together on all of the races, especially the races that are that do have challenges, that do have multiple candidates. After the primary, I expect everyone to come together and work for the common cause of getting more Democrats elected in the state of Missouri and throughout wherever your interests lie. It seems like there's more things coming in.
Well, I
Some
would say,
people.
Harvey, I do want to say that, I had a conversation with somebody the other day that had some misinformation on me. And I asked her, have you been to my website? And she said, no, I haven't. So if you really would like some more information, VonDras for Congress is kind of hard, I will admit, but you can go to votejoan.com and find out about my policies and some of the other points of view that I have. You can also go to towntalks.live to see some of my pedagogy in regard to how we need to speak to one another and reconnect as community.
Okay, very good. If there are no other questions, I'll turn the floor. Thank you, Joan.
Thanks.
I assume there's no other questions. Sydney, you see any other questions?
It looks like there was one about the financial disclosure form.
Oh, I didn't see that. You care to read that? I don't see it.
It just says
Oh,
when will Joan be filing her financial disclosure form?
Oh, I already filed. That's been filed.
okay.
Thing that's not been filed.
I guess we'll have to check and make sure that's out there.
Yeah.
Okay, that it got posted. Any other question? Sydney, any closing comments? Oh, I'm sorry, one more. Um, on behalf of the Chesterfield Township and the St. Louis County Central Committee, there is a CD2 debate, 3 candidates, on May 27th. Correct me if I'm wrong, starts at 7 o'clock at Logan Chiropractic College. Open to the public, please attend. There's all kinds of information online about it if you're not aware of it. And with that, thank you, Joan.
Thank you. I appreciate the time. And I hope to see town hall on June 10th.
Your town hall on June 10th. Yes,
June
thank you.
10th.
Yeah, and votejoan.com, of course, right? All right. Any other, let's see, where are we on time? We usually end around 8:30. We're at 8:10. Anyone have any announcements that they'd like to make? Any events coming up that you guys want to publicize?
I have an announcement. The Northwest Lewis and Clark Township and I think Fergus Florissant will be there, but our picnic is coming up on June the 4th. It'll be up at St. Ferdinand Park. I have a flyer. I can put it in the chat or however you add that to. I'm not very good at this whole thing here, but I'll add it in there. But I'd love everybody to come out and have a hot dog and give everybody a couple minutes to speak and just hang out and get ready to start off a great summer season. So just want to put that out there. Thanks.
Okay. If you email that to me, I'll send it out to the list. Anyone else? Oh, Tony, how would you like to give us an update? I'm sorry, I didn't see you there.
Hello. Thank you. Tony Easter, Respect Missouri Voters. And as you may have
another award winner, by the way.
If you may have read that on May 3rd, Respect Missouri Voters turned in 367,741 signatures to the Secretary of State's office to qualify for the ballot this year. This is more than double the total number legally required, but as many of you know from experience, raw numbers are not enough. We have to hit a strict specific target in at least 6 of 8 congressional districts to get certified. Some of you in this room made sure that we did exactly that. To everyone who gathered signatures, notarized forms, donated, or helped out behind the scenes, thank you, thank you, thank you. We are incredibly grateful to our union partners whose volunteers and paid gatherers stepped up this year to ensure that we crossed the finish line and that the volunteers had motivation to keep going. Altogether, almost 2,000 volunteers collected a Missouri record of 259,562 volunteer signatures for a single initiative. No part of Missouri was left behind. We even collected nearly 20,000 signatures in congressional districts 6 and 8. We went everywhere because every single Missourian deserves a voice in this fight. And here's what comes next. The governor is legally required to declare by May 26th what will go on the August primary ballot, though he does claim that he will make that announcement on May 22nd, which would be fine with us too. It seems highly likely he's going to put Amendment 4 on that August ballot. And make no mistake, A4 is a trick designed to decimate the citizen initiative process. They want to require an 8 of 8 congressional district majority vote that would only apply to citizen initiatives. Think of it this way. Imagine a baseball game where our team outscores the opponent, wins 8 out of 9 innings, but we still lose the game because we didn't win that one final inning. That is a 1 district veto. Even worse, they are changing the rules only for us. If the legislature wants to pass a measure, they just need a simple majority. But if we, the people, want to pass something, they want to force us to win every single congressional district just to count. It sets up 2 completely different sets of rules for the same game. Because of this immediate danger, our next job begins right now. We must educate our fellow voters. For 118 years, the citizen initiative has been a fundamental right of all Missourians. It is how hundreds of thousands of ordinary citizens can band together, bypass political gridlock, and put measures on the ballot that actually serve our families and communities. It is our ultimate check on government power. They are trying to take that check away, which means we're going to have to fight for it. First, we defeat their Amendment 4 trick in August, probably. And next, we vote for Respect Missouri voters to secure this vital right for generations to come. So I've shared in the chat, you can sign up for our newsletter or to get involved at respectfulvoters.org. There's a link. And if you just want to get our newsletter and see keep up with what's going on and what's on the ballot when, and thank you all. Any questions?
Are there questions? Again, this quiet group. Hearing no questions. Well, thank you, Tony. Secretary of State doesn't have a deadline for certifying the signatures, does he?
It's the same as People Not Politicians are under, which is August 4th. And perhaps ours won't be ready till then, but it doesn't matter. He'll wait till the last minute. And honestly, our campaign has been so fortunate at the suffering that People Not Politicians has experienced this year and the awful battle over the gerrymandering, which is the veto referendum section of the citizen initiative process. But People Not Politicians is taking all the heat. They are the front line. And so far, Respect Mo voters just keep sneaking in along behind them. and maybe we get across the finish line without getting too much attention. Hopefully the leadership is too busy doing people not politicians wrong. It's awful. And hopefully we can stop this constant cycle of again and again the legislature attacking the citizen initiative that serves all the citizens of Missouri, nonpartisan.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions? Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much. We're going to go back to, we have a little bit of time. Is Ed Weisbart still on the call here? Yes. Ed, are you open to taking a question?
Sure.
Excellent. We have one in the chat. Where do you think we are in Medicare for all?
We passed it last week. I don't know if you guys noticed it. It didn't make any. No, I'm sorry. Um, Actually, we're making tremendous progress on it. We have the majority of the Democrats in the House are now sponsors. We have more sponsors in the Senate than I think we've ever had. We obviously haven't passed it yet, but we have a strategic plan for what we're going to do over the next 3 years so that when we do get that trifecta, which I believe we will, we actually can make these things become law. So the key is that when we do catch the Congress and the government in 3 years, we need to be fully armed and ready to make this get into place. And that means electing people who will be full-throated in favor of it. We continue to have the same sort of adversaries that we've had. You know, the insurance industry doesn't like it. Big pharma doesn't like it. And we're starting to see the sort of an off-ramp for some of the Democrats who have sponsored it, which is, I think, one of our unexpected big risks that we need to be sure we elect people who don't fall for the off-ramp. So we're at 2026. We don't know who's going to be president in 2029. And I think we need to act as if we're going to get to the victory, which means unequivocally full-throated in favor of Medicare for all. But we're starting to see some of our Medicare for all legislators think about an off-ramp so that they can sound like they're in favor of Medicare for all, but not really do it. And that's the risk of the public option. So we're seeing some legislators starting to want to peel off from Medicare for all and do the dance of, well, just all who want it. And then we won't really solve things. If we just create a public option, we won't help the people who don't have insurance. We won't help the people that are underinsured. We won't be able to have the negotiating power to lower the price of drugs. We won't make healthcare more affordable. And it'll take 10 years before we figure out that that didn't work. So it's really critical that people that we elect in this next cycle and the one after that be full-throated in favor of Medicare for all and not Medicare for all who want it, not just the public option. And so that's going to be really critical. If in 4 years we don't have the trifecta, or we have a president who wouldn't fight for that, and we have to think of compromises, then maybe we should think of compromises. But it's worrisome to see some of the Democratic candidates opening with a compromise when we don't have any reason to compromise. So you're asking where we are today? We are actually closer to it than we have ever been, ever. And I'm pretty encouraged that when we get that trifecta with the right folks in both chambers and in the White House, that we can get to a win 3 to 5 years from now.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions for Ed?
I have my
Okay,
hand
we
up
have a
for
question
something
from
else, but I do have a question for Ed.
For Ed, sure.
Ed, I have been able and had the privilege of listening to Democrat candidates in 4 different states now. Right now, Missouri, I'll just only say Missouri. Right now, there's not many candidates that I have been able to listen to in the 4 states that are behind Medicare for all. One of which is in Illinois, and she works on leukemia. She, at her town hall, gave a very detailed rundown on why. Um, and when she did that, I kind of understood why there's a slide off. I don't know if it's just messaging or if it's, I don't know, but there's some division on this. I am not in medical. I am a former teacher. I do community organizing. So I'm like a layman when it comes to all of this stuff. I don't, I trust the people who say it on this side and I trust the people who say it on this side. So I don't even know what's best as a Democrat. So is there good resources either way that I can go look at and research this myself?
There's a boatload of stuff on the on our website. So I'm the National
Who's
Board
our?
Secretary. Pardon me?
Who's our?
I was just starting to say that.
Okay.
I'm the National Board Secretary of a group called Physicians for a National Health Program. You can go to showmemedicareforall.org or pnhp.org, and there's a wealth of information there. We are nonpartisan, nonprofit. We don't have any skin in any political game. It's, as Joan mentioned, it's true that I've spoken at her town halls a couple of times, and I've enjoyed it. And that is not an endorsement of our organization. I would be glad to do that with any of the candidates, including Ann Wagner. But yeah, at pnhp.org or showmemedicareforall.org, there's a ton of information about it.
Okay. Harvey, I did have my hand up about an announcement I was going to make, and
Oh,
nobody got to
sure.
me. Yeah. Okay. On mark your calendars, and this goes for everybody. On July, yeah, it's July, isn't it? Oh, Tony, is it June or July? Maddie, July. Okay, yeah. Okay, July 17th, 18th, and 19th will be the John Lewis Days of Action. This year it is Teach, Reach, and Preach is the theme. It looks like this year it will be gigantic. I can't get into too many details, but we may be at the Music at the Intersection this year through a kind invitation. So I want you to put that on your calendars. This might be big and huge, especially for our dear, lovely friend Denise Lieberman at MOVPC. And we always want to support the work and the hard work that she and her organization does to fight for all Missourians and fight and in the Supreme Court currently week after week. So mark your calendars, make sure you have those dates blocked off because there might be some volunteer asks from people coming up.
Okay. Thank you. Sydney Jackson has an announcement.
Yeah, I went ahead and put it in the chat. The National Women's Political Caucus St. Louis is having a an abbreviated version of their big training that they usually do in February for candidates and campaign staff on Saturday, May 30th at the Thornhill Branch Library at 9:30 a.m. So if anybody is interested in that.
I thank you. I received a private message from somebody that uh, I may have not properly handled Laura's question. So let me go back on that, Joan, if you're still on.
Yeah.
Laura rephrased her question, and I'm more than happy to read this. My question is more, how does Joan plan on winning overwhelming supporters if she wins the primary?
I would hope, regardless of who wins the primary, the supporters from each of our campaign care more about the Democratic Party. And I would hope that they would come into conversation with me and give me the opportunity to show them how I would represent. And if the same thing, if Fred were to win the primary, I would hope that my supporters would be open and supportive of him as he moved forward.
Thank you. Laura, I hope I did your question honor on that. I didn't mean to not. The first one was a little bit hard to phrase. Um, okay. All right. With that, if there are no other announcements, last chance. Okay, and as folks know, if any candidates want to speak to our club, you're always welcome. Contact me or Sydney. If you have any announcements that you want us to publicize, again, send it to me or Sydney. We'll send it out to our clubs. And thank you for joining us this evening. And we got a good fight in front of us. We're going to go fight the good fight and get more Democrats elected. Thank you.
Thank you.